This is booked for drama, where stories burn, hearts break, the tea is always hot and never a part two. Today we're diving into I Outcried, the fake heiress. Let's go. After I was reunited with my birth family, my sister, the girl who had taken my place, tearfully offered me her fiancé. Lily, she said, her voice a model of selfless understanding. James is yours. I'll step aside. The moment she cried, the whole family turned on me with aching hearts and pointed fingers. It was then I realized something vital. This family respected weakness, not strength. I fell to my knees with a loud thud, letting my sobs break loose. Louder and more desperate than hers. Aurora, how can you do this? If you step aside, James will resent me, Mom and Dad will blame me, and even my brother will see me as nothing. Why am I even here? I grabbed a fruit knife from the table, voice shaking. If you don't stay with him, I'll end it right here. The house froze. Shock replaced the usual air of control. Aurora, the so-called heiress, couldn't find words. When it came to crying, I was unmatched. Returning to the Sterling mansion felt like stepping into someone else's life. Everything here belonged to Aurora, the girl who had stolen my identity for 18 years. One morning, a crew arrived with ladders and paint cans ready to coat the villa in Aurora's favorite soft buttery cream. My room, once a gentle off-white, was on their list. I stopped them gently. Please don't paint my room. Aurora appeared, linking arms with Mom, eyes brimming with tears. Lily, I didn't think. I just wanted you to like a warmer color too. Mom's brow furrowed. Lily, she meant well. Why are you so ungrateful? Dad lowered his newspaper. It's just paint. Uniformity is better for the house. I studied their entitled faces and understood. My opinion didn't matter here. Only Aurora's tears did. I blinked rapidly, letting my own emotions surface. Dad, Mom, I'm not ungrateful. I heard this was the nursery you prepared for me when I was a baby. This color you chose with your own hands back then. I wanted to keep it, to feel, even for a moment, like I had grown up with you. Tears threatened, but I held them back, voice trembling. I'm sorry. I shouldn't ask. Paint it if you must. Just pretend I never came back. The house went silent. Shock softened into guilt across their faces. Mom rushed forward, pulling me into a hug. My sweet girl, it's Mommy's fault. Don't cry. Dad shouted at the workers. Who said you could touch a room? Get out. Julian, my brother, appeared and awkwardly patted my back. No one will touch your room, Lily. Aurora froze, caught off guard. She probably hadn't imagined I could take her little act of kindness and magnify it tenfold. She opened her mouth to speak, but I broke down harder. Please don't be mad at me. I didn't mean to upset Mom and Dad. I can't control it. The color drained from Aurora's face. For once, she looked small. After that, my room remained untouched, a solitary sanctuary in the buttery cream castle. Aurora's tricks resumed after a few days. On her birthday, Julian gifted her a bright red Porsche. She squealed, hugging him in delight, while the whole family admired her happiness. I lingered in the corner, invisible. Julian noticed me and handed me a small box. Inside was a delicate bracelet, beautiful but a poor comparison to a Porsche. Aurora smiled sweetly. Look at that, brother. Lily has a gift too. I refused it, letting silent tears fall. All eyes turned to me. Brother, thank you, but I can't accept this. Julian's face fell. Why not? I lifted tearful eyes, voice breaking with crafted despair. I grew up with nothing. How could I ever deserve something so precious? She's the star, not me. I'm just glad to have enough to eat and not cause trouble. I ran upstairs, covering my face as my sobs echoed. Julian followed, guilt written across his face. Lily, I didn't think. Here, take this, he said, sliding a black card across. 3 million. Buy any car you want. Something even better than hers. I stared out the window, voice barely a whisper. I don't want anything. In your hearts, I'll never be as important as she is. That's fine. Julian looked shattered. No, you are my real sister. From now on, you get the best. He practically shoved the card into my hand before leaving. I wiped away the last of my tears. Aurora, darling, if this is a game, you're an amateur. The man at the center of all the tension was James Nordling, heir to the Nordling Corporation and Aurora's original fiancé. After my return, the engagement became complicated. Aurora, ever the selfless sister, often performed her generosity in front of our parents. Dad, Mom, the engagement belongs to the Sterling family. Now that Lily is back, she should inherit it. I'm happy to step aside and wish James and my sister all the best. Every time she said this, my parents' faces twisted with guilt and their eyes seemed to accuse me of stealing from her. The first time James joined us for dinner, the air was thick with tension. He sat across from me, polite but distant, spending most of the evening conversing with Aurora. They spoke about high society events and mutual acquaintances, things I couldn't begin to follow. I ate quietly, feeling invisible. At one point, Aurora tried to serve me more food, smiling as if we were actual sisters. Lily, you need to eat more. You're far too thin. Her hand slipped. A greasy piece of braised pork landed squarely on my worn, countryside-bought t-shirt, blooming a huge stain across the fabric. Oh, Aurora gasped, panic etched on her face. I'm so sorry. Your shirt. All eyes turned to the mark on my chest. It was a cheap $10 find already glaringly out of place amid couture surroundings. Anger could have made me a scene. Acceptance would make me look weak. Instead, I smiled, a sad, hollow smile, and looked up, eyes glistening. It's fine, sister, I said, voice rough. It's an old shirt. If it's ruined, I'll just toss it. It's the only kind of clothes I have. Not like you, sister, with your designer labels. I lowered my chopsticks, bowed deeply to everyone at the table, and excused myself. Every step felt like it landed on their hearts. For the first time, James's gaze shifted from Aurora to me, curious and slightly sympathetic. Behind me, Mom's voice trembled with fury. Aurora Sterling, look what you've done. Aurora froze. Mom, I didn't mean enough. That's enough, Mom snapped. One tear, one small gesture, had completely upended the carefully orchestrated family dinner. That night, my phone buzzed with a message from James. Are you free tomorrow? I'll take you shopping. I smiled. The game was on. I didn't refuse. The next day, I arrived at the mall in the same grease-stained t-shirt. James frowned. Why are you still wearing that? It's the only decent shirt I have, I muttered. He said nothing further. Instead, he took my wrist and led me into the mall's most exclusive boutique. The staff's eyes flickered with judgment at my outfit, but when James flashed his black card, their expressions shifted to warm smiles. He gestured to a rack of the latest dresses. Anything she likes, wrap it up. Then he looked at me. Try them on. I panicked. No, I can't accept such expensive things. It's not for you, he said flatly. It's for the Sterling family's image. Cheap clothes embarrass all of us. I was reluctantly dressed in a white gown. The mirror reflected a pale, slender girl I barely recognized. When I stepped out, James's eyes lingered on me for a moment before he quickly masked it and handed his card to the assistant. Wrap them all up. I trailed behind murmuring, James, thank you, but I still can't. Call me James, he interrupted, his gaze sharp. Lily Sterling, you don't have to tiptoe through life. You're the rightful heir, I scoffed quietly. In their hearts, my sister is the real one. I'm just a shadow. Tears threatened. I don't want to take anything that belongs to her, including you. James, I stammered. You and my sister, you look perfect together. I hope you're happy. Then I grabbed the shopping bags and ran, leaving him standing there, conflicted and frowning. After that, he began avoiding Aurora. Calls went unanswered. Office visits met with excuses. Aurora grew frantic. Finally, she confronted me. Lily Sterling, what did you say to James? I looked innocent, feigning confusion. Sister, I didn't say anything. I just wished you both the best. Don't you believe me? She snapped. I clutched my chest, eyes brimming with feigned hurt. How could you think I'd ruin your relationship? Am I that kind of person? Aurora was left speechless. I let the tears flow freely. It's my fault. I shouldn't have returned. I'll leave the Sterling family and never trouble you again. I rushed to the door and my parents, arriving on the scene, were appalled. Aurora, what are you doing to your sister? Dad shouted. She's fragile. Why provoke her? Mom added. Aurora stood frozen, venom in her eyes. She had lost, again, completely and utterly. Returning to the Sterling mansion felt less like coming home and more like stepping onto a stage where every family member was a critic waiting for my next move. I learned quickly that in this house, weakness was worshipped and strength punished. Tears, real or imagined, were a currency I now wielded better than anyone. At breakfast, Aurora prattled on about some gala she'd attended, carefully sprinkling in humble compliments about her little sister to remind everyone of her own generosity. I listened, silent, letting her words wash over me. My eyes glistened, lips trembling as if the injustice of being ignored for 18 years had finally crushed me. Aurora, my voice cracked. I slumped forward, pressing my hands to the table as if the weight of the world bore down on me. The room froze. My mother's forehead scrunched. Even Dad paused, eyebrow twitching in confusion. Lily, what is it? Julian asked, stepping closer, concern flickering across his usually controlled face. I let a choked sob escape loud enough to pierce the polite atmosphere. Why am I even here? 18 years and you all treat me like a stranger. Aurora paled, her carefully curated expression cracking. She stammered, Lily, it's not like that. I shook my head violently, tears streaming down. Not like that. You've been the star of this family while I was invisible. Everything, every gift, every praise, every little act of kindness was a performance and they all fell for it. James, seated across the table, finally raised an eyebrow. His eyes lingered on me, sharp and curious, trying to reconcile the fragile girl before him with a fire in her voice. You, I whispered, leaning closer to Aurora, voice dripping with a controlled despair. You're good at pretending, but pretending won't win their hearts forever. Aurora opened her mouth, but no words came. I let the silence stretch, filling it with the sound of my trembling sobs. The family shifted uneasily, sensing something had changed. Later that evening in the grand parlor, I discovered subtle opportunities to assert myself. Aurora tried to claim the spotlight again, directing attention towards some charity she had organized. I quietly praised her efforts at first, but then gently introduced a fact she had conveniently ignored, one that revealed the gaps in her work. Oh, I didn't realize, she muttered, faltering under the mild correction. The family looked at her with raised eyebrows, their unquestioning admiration beginning to waver. And all the while, James watched me, not with scorn or pity, but with something sharper, something like respect. By the end of the night, I realized the truth. This house wasn't mine yet. But every tear, every carefully measured word, every small unveiling of Aurora's cracks, it was a chess game. And I had just claimed my first piece. As I climbed the staircase to my untouched room, the buttery cream walls seemed to glow with quiet approval. I allowed myself a small, victorious smile. I wasn't just the lost daughter anymore. I was the shadow heir, the one who could bend this family to my presence without raising a hand. Tomorrow will be another day, another opportunity. And I intended to make them all notice, especially James. The next morning, the buttery cream walls of my room felt almost like a fortress. I traced my fingers along the edges of my old crib, a ghost of memory tucked into every corner. It was quiet, too quiet, and I knew the family was still recovering from last night's display. My tears had spoken louder than any words. A soft knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. Lily, James's voice, low and careful, slipped through. Are you awake? I hesitated, but opened the door. He stood there, holding a small leather-bound book. A faint crease of curiosity tugged at his brows. I thought you might like this, he said, extending it. It's the first edition of The Art of Diplomacy. I noticed you reading about it the other day. I blinked at the gesture, surprised by the thoughtfulness. Aurora might have dazzled everyone else with gifts and designer gowns, but James noticed small details, small truths. Thank you, I murmured, feigning fatigue. I shouldn't even accept this. He smiled faintly, unbothered by my hesitation. Then don't, but I wanted to offer it anyway, just for you. There was no one else around, no audience. Just him and me, and in that quiet, I realized the power of a moment unshared. Over the next few days, James found reasons to approach me, always subtle, never overtly threatening Aurora's place beside him. A brief walk in the garden, a shared tea in the library, a quiet joke in the hallway, small interactions that allowed me to showcase intelligence, wit, and composure behind my fragile mask. You don't have to cry all the time, he said one evening, glancing at me as I dabbed at my eyes after an especially emotional family confrontation. I smiled faintly, letting a single tear linger. Crying is sometimes the only language they understand, I whispered. But strength, that's the language I intend to speak. James's gaze lingered longer than it should have. You're clever, he said softly. And stronger than I expected. It was a subtle acknowledgement, a seed planted. I nodded, allowing him to leave with the impression that my power was hidden beneath layers of fragility. While James's attention was slowly tilting in my direction, I began quietly weaving my network elsewhere. The house staff, long overlooked, noticed my genuine concern for their well-being. A few distant relatives who had previously attended family dinners only for appearances were quietly swayed by my insight and sincerity. Even family friends who had been dazzled by Aurora's theatrical charm started noticing inconsistencies in her stories. Small cracks that I carefully magnified. Each conversation was a careful maneuver, each tear a strategic signal. I didn't need to declare war, I simply needed to exist in the right way at the right time for the right people to take notice. By the end of the week, it became clear I wasn't just a shadow anymore. My presence rippled beneath the surface of the Sterling household, and Aurora, for all her practiced grace, had no idea she was losing ground. One night, as I reviewed the day's interactions, a text buzzed across my phone. Dinner tomorrow, just you and me, James. A small smile curved across my lips. My secret alliance was forming. And soon, the Sterling family would have to reckon with more than tears. They'd have to reckon with strategy, wit, and someone who refused to stay invisible. The game had truly begun. The Sterling mansion had always been a stage, and Aurora its flawless lead. Or so she thought, but lately, the spotlight was shifting and she didn't know how to reclaim it. It started subtly. A breakfast tray she prepared for everyone one morning, adorned with gold-rimmed china and perfectly arranged pastries, suddenly felt overbearing. I smiled politely, letting her perfection show through without overshadowing the small flaws I subtly hinted at. Aurora, the pastries are beautiful, but the filling seems a little undercooked. I wouldn't want anyone to get a stomachache, I said softly, eyes brimming with just enough concern to appear sincere. Her hand froze mid-lift, face paling. I didn't realize, she stammered. Mom and Dad murmured worryingly, but I kept my tone gentle, careful not to seem critical, just aware. James, seated nearby, noticed. His brows furrowed slightly, the faint tension in his jaw telling me he was starting to see the cracks. Aurora, desperate to recover, quickly shifted topics, but the spell had broken. The next day, she tried another tactic, a charity event she organized inviting family, friends, and distant relatives. She rehearsed speeches, polished her smile, and even pretended tears at the end, hoping for applause and sympathy. I attended quietly, letting her perform. But when she unveiled her grand project, I asked a single, soft question about the budget allocation. Oh, well, those details are handled by the team. She faltered, just enough for the whispers to start circulating. A few raised eyebrows among the guests' flicker of doubt. I smiled gently, as if my concern were innocent. I just thought such a generous initiative might also benefit the less visible staff. They work so hard for all of us. Her carefully constructed facade cracked further. Aurora's forced composure faltered, revealing her anxiety. And James, finally, leaned back in his chair, quiet, conflicted, unsure of how to reconcile the sister he thought he knew with the woman struggling before him. Aurora's desperation only intensified after that. Gifts for parents arrived daily. Jewelry, designer clothes, even a rare pearl necklace for Julian. Each item, meant to dazzle, became a mirror reflecting her frantic energy rather than genuine care. I accepted politely, but my reactions were carefully measured. Small hints of gratitude, enough to appear gracious, yet a subtle reminder of her relentless striving. You don't have to do this, I said one afternoon holding a gift she placed before me. I appreciate it, but I already have what I need. Your efforts would be better spent on yourself. She froze, lips trembling. Lily, I simply smiled softly, eyes glistening, a tear threatening to escape. I know you mean well, but appearances aren't everything. That night, in the quiet of my room, a message buzzed across my phone. Dinner tomorrow, just us. James. His words were simple but they carried weight. Aurora's games were failing. My subtle manipulations, gentle questions, innocent observations, quiet displays of empathy, were unraveling her carefully curated image. And James? He was slowly being pulled away from the whirlwind of Aurora's desperation, drawn toward the girl behind the tears, the one who wasn't performing but living. As I wiped my eyes, a soft smile touched my lips. Aurora might have been the star once. But even the brightest star can't shine forever when someone else quietly holds the sky. The grand chandelier of the Sterling Estates ballroom sparkled like 1,000 tiny suns casting gold light over the assembled guests. The family social event had always been a theater of perfection, a place where Aurora could dazzle and I was expected to fade quietly into the background. But tonight, the rules were different. Aurora arrived first, a vision of meticulously styled elegance. Her smile was radiant, rehearsed flawless. "Everyone, this event is going to be perfect," she declared, her voice lilting with practiced charm. "Lily, do try to enjoy yourself tonight." I smiled softly, letting the words drip with the faintest hint of ironic gratitude. "Of course, sister," I said. My tone measured, eyes calm, confidence hiding behind the mask of fragility. As guests arrived, Aurora took center stage recounting exaggerated tales of her charity work and social connections. Laughter followed at the precise moments she had timed, applause punctuating her every line. She was in her element, or so she thought. I lingered near the periphery, speaking softly with a few distant relatives and friends who had once admired Aurora unquestioningly. A casual comment here, a small question there, highlighting discrepancies in her stories, seemed harmless, but the ripple spread quickly. "So, Lily," one guest asked innocently, "Aurora mentioned that you personally oversaw the last charity auction." I tilted my head, letting the light catch my tear-glimmered eyes. "Oh, I'm afraid there's a slight confusion. I didn't attend. It was Aurora's initiative. I only helped organize a small portion of the invitations." The room quieted for a beat. Subtle glances exchanged. Aurora's smile faltered. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her perfectly composed face. She recovered quickly, but the spell of her narrative had been broken. James, leaning nearby under the guise of polite conversation with another guest, didn't look away. His eyes tracked me as I laughed softly at an innocuous comment, poised and elegant without effort. Every move I made was quiet, deliberate. Every word is measured. And it worked. He was watching, and for the first time, it wasn't Aurora who held his attention. Desperate to regain control, Aurora attempted a grand gesture, presenting a rare donation certificate she claimed to have secured personally, but a subtle slip, a misnamed donor, a mismatched date, was enough. I raised an eyebrow, feigning curiosity. "Aurora, isn't that donation from last year? I thought it had been awarded to another foundation." The room froze, whispers spread, guests glanced between Aurora and me, sensing tension beneath the elegance. Aurora's face flushed crimson, her carefully curated image cracking under the weight of a small, unnoticed truth. James, now standing closer, voice low, murmured, "You've got a way of noticing things others overlook." I glanced at him, a faint smile touching my lips. "Sometimes the smallest truths reveal the biggest lies," I said softly. Aurora's composure collapsed in subtle, catastrophic ways. The perfect gown felt too tight. Her practiced laughter forced, her charm unraveling thread by thread. And through it all, I remained calm, collected my quiet confidence, a stark contrast to her frantic performance. By the night's end, whispers of admiration had shifted. Several influential guests approached me, asking my thoughts on charity and social work. James lingered beside me, subtly protective, quietly attentive. Aurora, meanwhile, faded into the background, desperate to reclaim the spotlight she no longer commanded. As I watched her retreat, a thrill ran through me. The Sterling family and the wider social circle was beginning to notice something undeniable. The real Heiress wasn't the one performing for applause. The real power wasn't in the show. It was in quiet strength, in subtlety, in a presence that commanded attention without demanding it. And James? He was noticing everything. The morning sun streamed through the buttery cream walls of my room, spilling light over the carefully untouched furniture. Today, like every day, the Sterling mansion was a stage. But now, I was no longer merely a performer in someone else's story. I was beginning to write my own. Aurora burst into the room. Radiant as always, her smile carefully crafted. "Lily, you simply must come with me to choose the centerpiece for tonight's family gala," she said, excitement coating every word. "I want everything to be perfect." I allowed a small tremor in my voice, a soft sigh that spoke of exhaustion. "Oh, Aurora, I'm not sure I can manage it. I feel so overwhelmed. Everything is so grand." And I trailed off, letting tears threaten without falling. She gasped, concern etched across her face. "Lily, you must rest. You're too fragile." Exactly as intended. I let her guide me through the lavish preparations, allowing my feigned weakness to lull the family into underestimating me. And yet, in moments when attention waned, I quietly spoke up, subtle suggestions, gentle questions, observations that highlighted flaws in Aurora's choices without ever appearing confrontational. "Aurora," I said softly, eyes glistening with faux fatigue. "The floral arrangement looks stunning, but the roses might overshadow the silver accents you carefully selected for the tables. Perhaps smaller blooms would let them shine." Her hands froze mid-arrangement. "Oh, I suppose that could work." A faint murmur of agreement rippled through the staff and a few relatives observing from the sidelines. James, standing nearby, caught my subtle smile. His eyes lingered on me longer than they should have, admiration and curiosity mixing in his gaze. By the time dinner arrived, the family's attention had begun to shift. Aurora, for all her efforts, looked flustered and exhausted. Her exaggerated gestures, her over-rehearsed smiles, and even her carefully orchestrated tears began to appear performative. I, in contrast, alternated between vulnerability and quiet confidence. A soft sob here, a gentle suggestion there, and the family began to see the real difference between us. Aurora performed to impress. I simply existed, and in doing so, proved more capable, more thoughtful, more deserving of their attention. The turning point came when Father announced a discussion regarding the upcoming family charity fund. Normally, Aurora would have dominated the conversation. Tonight, however, she stumbled over statistics and misremembered a key donor's contribution. I spoke up, calmly and clearly, offering a correction and a suggestion for improvement. Julian's eyes widened. Lily, that's perfect. Exactly what we needed. Even Mother paused, studying me with a flicker of surprise. The approval that had always been Aurora's alone was quietly, unmistakably shifting. Aurora's face darkened. She tried to mask her frustration, but her hands trembled slightly, betraying her bitterness. Every small victory, I claimed, every word spoken with measured care, was another crack in her carefully constructed facade. James, standing a little closer than before, whispered, "You're remarkable." I met his gaze briefly, eyes shining with controlled tears. Sometimes being remarkable simply means letting the truth show through. I replied softly. That night, as I lay in my untouched room, I allowed a single genuine smile to surface. The family's eyes were beginning to open. Aurora's shadow, once impossible to escape, was fading. And in the midst of tears and quiet triumphs, I realized something crucial. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it flows softly, quietly, until it overwhelms everything in its path. The real Heiress was no longer just the girl who returned. She was the one who refused to be invisible. The Sterling mansion had quieted for the evening, leaving the halls bathed in a soft golden glow. The gala had ended, but the echoes of whispers still lingered, rippling through the family like faint music. I sat alone in the library, carefully arranging a stack of papers, though my mind was far from work. A soft knock interrupted the quiet. James stepped inside, closing the door behind him. His expression was unreadable, but his dark eyes betrayed the conflict. He was clearly struggling. "Lily," he began, voice low, cautious. "We need to talk." I looked up, heart quickening, and managed a faint smile. "Of course. What about?" I let my tone remain calm, neutral, hiding the anticipation behind carefully practiced composure. He took a step closer. I don't know how to explain this. Aurora, she's always been," he hesitated. "The one everyone expected me to be with. But you've changed everything. Every time I see you, I'm conflicted." I blinked slowly, pretending to be startled, letting just enough vulnerability show to dry him in. "Conflicted?" I whispered. "How so?" He ran a hand through his hair. "Tense. Because you're strong, Lily. Stronger than I imagined. And yet, when I see you with the family, or when you cry, I see the hurt they've caused you. I want to protect you, but I don't know if I should." I let my chest rise and fall with a faint sob. Then straightened, voice soft but steady. "James, I've spent 18 years believing I was invisible, that the world, my family, everyone would never see me, but you notice, and it's terrifying and freeing." His gaze sharpened. "Lily, I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to hurt anyone. But every moment I spend near Aurora now, I realize I'm not hers. Not really. And the more I see you, the clearer it becomes." That he paused, struggling. "I'm drawn to you, to the real you." I allowed a small, genuine smile to appear, tempered by a few tears. "James, I've always believed that I had no right to want anything. Not love, not this family, not even you. But maybe it's time to stop believing that. Maybe it's time to take my place, wherever it is meant to be." Meanwhile, Aurora's last desperate act of control was underway. She had overheard whispers about the gala, about my subtle triumphs, and attempted to orchestrate a confrontation in front of the family, gifts, tears, even an overly dramatic confession of sisterly devotion. But her performance fell flat. Every exaggeration, every forced tear, only exposed her immaturity and need for validation. Her charm cracked, and the family saw her in a new light, selfish, insecure, and performative. Back in the library, James stepped closer, voice gentle. "You don't have to pretend anymore. You've earned your place, Lily. Not just in this family, but with me. If you want it." I let my tears flow freely this time. Not calculated, not strategic, but real. I think I do," I whispered. "I finally understand that I deserve it. All of it." He reached for my hand, brushing the damp strands of hair from my face. "Then it's yours," he murmured. And in that moment, the world outside Aurora's schemes, the family's expectations fell away. For the first time in 18 years, I felt seen, not for my tears, but for the strength that had carried them. The real Heiress had stepped forward, and love, at last, was hers too. The Sterling mansion had changed. Not in its buttery cream walls, nor in its grand chandeliers, but in the air itself. The subtle tension that had clung to every corner since my return was gone, replaced by something sharper, quieter respect. I walked into the main hall that morning, head held high, letting every step carry the quiet authority I had cultivated over weeks of careful strategy. Aurora was already there, practicing her rehearsed smile, unaware that the world was slowly shifting beneath her feet. "Lily," Julian greeted softly, a faint smile on his lips. "Dinner tonight is all yours to plan. Everyone will follow your lead." I blinked, momentarily stunned, then nodded. "Of course, I'll make it special," I replied, keeping my voice calm, steady. My heart skipped when I noticed James standing nearby, watching me with that same conflicted, admiring gaze that had become so familiar. Aurora attempted a last display, arriving with an extravagant gift for the family, a rare designer piece meant to outshine everything I had orchestrated. She held it up proudly, eyes searching for approval. I stepped forward slowly, voice gentle but firm. "Aurora, it's beautiful, but I think what everyone will remember tonight isn't a gift or a gesture or even the food we serve. It's the care behind it. And that, dear sister, I've made sure is present in every detail." Her hands trembled slightly, and for the first time, I saw her fear, the recognition that her years of performance could not outshine authenticity. She faltered and a soft silence filled the room. The family glanced between us, realization dawning on their faces. You've changed things, Lily, Mom admitted, her voice quieter than usual. We never understood before, but now, your heart, your mind, they guide us in a way we didn't even know we needed. Aurora's eyes brimmed with tears, real ones this time, but they were tinged with regret rather than strategy. I thought I was helping, she whispered. I wanted to protect my place. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I stepped closer, softly touching her hand. I know. You never meant to be cruel, but pretending doesn't earn love or trust. Maybe you can learn from this as I did. Her shoulders sagged, the weight of realization pressing down. She was humbled, but still a sister, not a villain. There was room for empathy even in her defeat. James finally spoke, voice steady, eyes locked on mine. Lily, I've been drawn to you from the start, even when I couldn't name it. I see now it's always been you, not Aurora, not anyone else. You. I felt warmth spread through me. A quiet victory mingled with something far sweeter. James, I think I've finally learned that I deserve this. I admit it, letting a smile bloom. Genuine and bright. He took my hand, his touch grounding, affirming. And you always did, he said. The family gathered around, acknowledging in their own ways that the true Sterling daughter had returned. Aurora stepped back, humbled, yet still a part of the family tapestry, her flaws visible, her remorse sincere. That night, as I surveyed the hall buzzing with laughter and quiet admiration, I realized the journey wasn't just about reclaiming my place. It was about earning it, with tears, with strategy, with strength, and with the courage to accept love when it came. The real heiress had finally stepped into her identity, and for the first time, the Sterling name felt wholly mine. The morning sun poured into the Sterling mansion, warm and golden as if the world itself was affirming the new order within its walls. For the first time in years, the house felt balanced, not perfect, but honest. I moved through the rooms with calm purpose, checking on preparations for the family's weekly brunch. Servants greeted me with smiles, relatives asked for my advice, and even Aurora, quietly poised beside me, offered a small nod of acknowledgement. The rivalry that had defined our interactions was replaced, for now, with an uneasy truce. James appeared beside me, a gentle hand brushing against mine as he surveyed the room. You've done this beautifully, he said softly. The house feels alive again. I glanced at him, a small laugh, escaping. It's not just me, it's that everyone finally sees clearly, including Aurora. Aurora, standing across the room arranging flowers, caught my eyes and offered a tentative smile. I'm learning, she admitted quietly. I understand now that strength isn't about applause or gifts. It's being sincere. I nodded, placing a hand over hers briefly. And that's enough. We all have room to grow. The brunch unfolded smoothly. I moved with confidence, alternating warmth with subtle authority, offering guidance when needed and letting others shine when appropriate. The family's deference no longer felt forced. It was respect earned through strategy, resilience and authenticity. Later, I found a quiet moment alone with James in the library. He looked at me, eyes reflecting pride and something more tender. You've come so far, Lily. From the girl who was hidden to the woman who commands attention without demanding it. I admire you. I smiled softly, letting the weight of the past 18 years settle behind me. It wasn't easy, but every tear, every calculated move, it led me here. I've learned that being the shadow isn't weakness, it's preparation. And now, I can be myself. James reached for my hand, entwining our fingers. And I'll be here, every step of the way. Across the room, Aurora caught the exchange, a flicker of humility in her gaze. She approached cautiously, voice gentle. Lily, I'm sorry for everything. I hope we can find our own way without rivalry. Maybe even be sisters. I smiled, warmth in my chest. We can. It won't be the same as before, but perhaps better, honest and fair. That's all we can ask for. As the sun climbed higher, casting light on every corner of the mansion, I allowed myself to reflect. I had entered the Sterling household as a shadow, a girl erased by circumstance. Yet through tears, strategy and courage, I had carved my own place, not just in the family, but in my own life. For the first time, the future felt open, full of possibility. Strength, love, and forgiveness weren't just ideals. They were choices I could make every day. And for the first time in 18 years, I felt like I truly belonged. Not because anyone said I should, but because I had claimed it myself. The real Heiress had returned. And this time, she was here to stay. The end. And that's a wrap on today's reading here at Booked for Drama. If you felt anything, rage, swoon, secondhand heartbreak, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow drama lovers. If you have any requests, drop them in the comments. Until next time, keep reading, and keep the drama on the page.